Hi there, and welcome back to LMM. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow, and perhaps even check out the Patreon. Today, we're looking at a Titan, so welcome to LMM Drives.
This is a Leyland Titan PD2, which is quite different to the Leyland Titan PD1 and basically the same as a Leyland Titan PD3, although this one runs on vacuum brakes and the PD3 had the more traditional air brakes. And this one wasn't actually built as a sports bus, or as they like to call it, an open top bus. This originally was your standard traditional bus that had that amazing thing called a roof, which apparently when they converted this one in 71, they decided was a optional extra that wasn't needed. Now, this was an interesting development because this design started in 1946, and prior to that there'd been a little worldwide shenanigans going on which could kind of stopped development of lots of things. Now, AEC with their buses kind of, after the shenanigans, continued with a slightly upgraded but basically the same thing as they've been doing before the shenanigans. Leyland, however, had taken the time to completely redevelop what had been the PD1. The Titan had already been a bus, that name had already existed, but only the front axle remained similar. Everything else was re-engineered and changed to make a bus that was much more fitting for the times. This was a bus of the future. This was the new age, an age of peace and prosperity. And you know what? I think they did a really good job with it because this is perfect. It has the things that I really like with a bus and the things that I know that a lot of bus drivers enjoy about a bus, particularly the fact that your driver's cabin is entirely separate to the passengers. And that for most drivers is an absolute blessing because you sit there on your own, quite content, quite happy, and you don't have to deal with everyone. And that's great. You have a separate person to do that. Perfection. It has this beautiful line to it as well. Unlike your modern just box of a bus, having the engine alongside you here and the shape cut out, it's just beautiful. This thing is a work of art. The curves, the lines, it's just, why don't we make stuff like this anymore? And I know I bang on about that in every single video, but this is brilliant. It's an occasion, it's a work of art, it's beautiful. You could have this and just sit and look at it. You don't need to take it anywhere or do anything with it, but just be there with it and go, oh yeah, that is beautiful. Now, the obvious elephant in the room is the lack of the roof, the fact that that was chopped off. And some of you may be feeling, this seems like a slightly optimistic move, particularly in England, where, as you can see, it's damp. Removing the roof for only the most foolhardy of travellers. And of course, that's what it was. This wasn't a normal service bus. This was something that went out, took your tourists around so they could experience the good old outdoors from sitting on a bus. It's a good day out, that, right? You may have noticed this bar that runs alongside it. Obviously, this vehicle is a lot higher than your traditional bus of today, and it's on standard springs. They're not on airbags, it can't drop itself. So this rail here is known as the dog bar, and that isn't a place for dogs to go and drink. Rather, it's somewhere that keeps the dogs from running underneath the vehicle. It's a safety feature, and I suppose also small children, but dog bar sounds a lot better than small child bar. I am now a conductor. I have my little ticket machine, which I twist the handle with like this, and it produces a ticket, which is just joyful. And I've actually done this shot several times now, and I've just keep making tickets. Now, this goes back to the day. You might remember there's been this fuss on the railways of late of driver-only trains, and the same thing happened with the buses. Back in the day, you used to have a gentleman who'd be at the back of the bus to control the passengers, to offer tickets, and the driver only had to work on, funnily enough, driving. And you would be the gentleman standing here, making sure everyone was safe, making sure people get on and off, and, you know, offering assistance. This was a better age. Obviously, it was more expensive because you had to have two people. But the style of this harks back to a whole different age. It's so much nicer aesthetically, and it gave a far nicer experience for the public. And just that whole timeless scene of people running to hop on the bus as it pulled away. It's glorious. It really is. Now, this thing weighs just over 7 tonnes and has room for 59 people, of which 33 can be upstairs and 26 sit down here, which means there's room for more people upstairs. Now, the Titan was only a double-decker bus, and in the way with most other buses, you bought your basic bus and skeleton, and then you sent it off to a particular coach builder, who would then style it with different aesthetic choices. So you have different interiors, different looks. You could have 2 Titans, which actually look entirely different, and are different buses, despite starting side by side on the factory floor. Now, this one, the coach builder, was Metro Camel, and it is absolutely, now I may have said this 1 or 2 times already, gorgeous. I love this. If I was ever going to have a bus, this is what I would like, complete with little ticket machine, because this is superb. It's just brilliant, isn't it? So obviously the most important thing is, let's go and have a look at what it was like on board. Coming up onto the first floor to the main attraction of this vehicle, and that is that we are out in the elements, in the open air, which on a nice summer's day is a wonderful place to go around and see the sights. Middle of March, maybe not quite so much. Now, this is, however, very nice. It recently has had a load of money spent on it. The whole top deck has had a new linoleum floor. All of the seats up here have been re-trimmed. So actually, it feels very nice. It feels new. And actually, sitting here, I feel like I'm on holiday, because this is exactly the feel of that. Going out on a trip to see the sights and wave at people. Or maybe I feel like I've hired it for a wedding. I'm not really sure, but this, whatever it is, being on this, it feels like an occasion. It feels special, because open-top buses these days are few and far between. Most bus companies at some point, local bus companies, towns, cities, whatever, would have at least one in their fleet. And today they're becoming less and less common, with rising costs and people going, well, that bus doesn't get used half the year, why are you bothering to keep it? Which, funny enough, is part of the reason that this one ended up going for sale. Coming to the very front immediately takes me back to my childhood and wanting to be here, overlooking the front, so you can see everything in front of you, no driver blocking your view, and just seeing the panoramic world in front of you, and be able to sit right here peering off the edge. It does take me back, and actually, this is pretty good. And this, of course, is the joy of one of these vehicles. It's just having everything unexposed, being able to sample and see it all. And it also takes me back to my high school prom, because we hired the one from Ipswich Town and went to the prom on it, because we were the cool kids. And sat, obviously, half of us at the front and half of us at the back, because the cool kids sat at the back of the bus and the rest of us were sat at the front looking at what was going on. I was a cool kid. Coming to the covered accommodation down here, there is one major flaw, and that is that if I want to stand up, I have to have a crooked neck. Obviously, when this was designed, people were a bit shorter, because it's just not comfortable to stand or walk. You have to be stooped to go around. Now, I do really like a lot of the features in here, particularly in the roof are the buttons. They're not on any of the handholds or the supports taking up the space or ruining the sleek lines. No, integrated into the roof. I think that's really nice. You may notice that some of the seats here have a different material on them as well. The ones towards the back are original, but during its lifetime, this bus developed a slight ingress of water, and so the bottoms of this 4 became moist. And people don't really like having moist seats, and neither do seats enjoy being moist. That resulted in, well, them becoming knackered. So they were replaced during its life. The owner's current plan is to cover all of these with some new leather, to leave them intact, not to remove them, but just to cover, to preserve them, and just to make the whole thing a bit nicer. There is, however, one key thing here that I like more than anything else, and that is this. I have a little handle. Look at that! Wind down windows! It's workout windows! With a gearing of about 1,000,000 to 1 as well. By the time you got this down, you've hit the gym, mate. But you can set the window how you want it. None of this open it a fraction. It just keeps on going. The bus was delivered brand new to Portsmouth Corporation Transport on the 25th of March 1956 and was in regular service all the way up to the April of 1971, where it was taken to their works at Eastleigh, and the top was, well, disposed of, converting it into an open topper. In this new guise, it became fleet number 2 and performed the summer tourist duties. Obviously, during the winter, it was parked up as there's not that much demand for an open top bus when the weather is poor. It survived doing this all the way up until 1988 of the privatisation of Portsmouth Corporation Transport, and the new company, which was a Plymouth City Bus, survived for entirely 1 year before it became part of Stagecoach. And Stagecoach only held on to it for 2 years before they were forced to sell. And in 91, it became part of Transit Holdings, who then repainted it as part of the launch of the new Blue Admiral part of Plymouth City Bus. In 1995, it left Portsmouth for the first time when its ownership was transferred to another company, Thames Holdings, who, as you can guess, weren't actually based in London at all. They were an Oxford-based company, and this thing was running the Blenheim Palace route. And in 1997, it was even used to turn on the Oxford Christmas lights. In 1996, it was once again sold and became part of Stagecoach, and in 1998 they moved it down to Torquay, where it was repainted for the summer season into the Stagecoach livery. However, in 2000 it was repainted back into this livery that you see now, which was the colour carried by the AEC Regents in the 1950s in this, the Devon General Tourist livery, as it was an open-top bus. It was taken out of service in 2001 and used solely for marketing and community events. And in 2002, it went out for a number of community-based things for the Jubilee. And that was about it. In 2005, it went to the Southampton Historic Vehicle Group, who relaunched the vehicle into traffic, and over the next few years took it to various different rallies and events as they continued doing the much overdue and needed restoration. In 2014, it was commandeered for the Exeter Chiefs, who had won the Rugby League and needed an open-top vehicle to be able to parade around in. However, the group who were looking after it found that they were running out of space, and the vehicle was given back to Stagecoach as they simply didn't have room for it, who pushed it back into service and continued to use it all the way up to the 2020s. At which point, due to Stagecoach itself changing ownership, the new owners have looked at the books and gone, well, this bus, it's old, it's not standardised, it costs a lot to keep going, and we can only use it for certain points of the year. Get rid of it. And so it went up for auction, and my friend decided that it looked like a good thing to buy, and he picked it up in the January of 2023. And now it's in his ownership. My friend is opening it up to private hires, so you can do weddings, trips to the shops, days out, whatever you fancy, and seaside trips in Scarborough on it, which is a lovely way to go, because this is indeed the way to travel. It harks back to that glorious bygone age. It just screams beauty. And it makes you want to ride on a bus. And that's something that I don't normally feel, that I want to ride a bus. But this, I want to go for a ride on it. All of it is fantastic. The handrails, the way they shine, the colours, it just all works together. The lights, everything. It's just brilliant. Now, obviously, we've now looked at the inside, the outside, talked about the history. And the most important thing is to go and have a look at the cab and work out how all the steering things work. So that means I've got to go around this side because obviously I can't access it through there. Coming around here, we have possibly one of the worst ways of getting into a cab that I've ever seen. It starts off well. We have a handle here that you're probably familiar with that we open like so. And in here, it reveals two very handy hand grabby things to pull yourself in, otherwise known as a handle. Now, you would think that all you do is you'll put your foot on the wheel like this and then you stand up. If I was on my test and the examiner was where you were, what you would do at that point is shout, "Fail!" Because apparently that could be enough if the brakes were left off, that putting your weight on there would be enough to push the bus into motion, and then bad things could happen. So instead of putting one's foot on the wheel, you use the foothold here. You may notice that the foothold and the door itself don't actually line up. So you go like this, you put one hand here, and then you kind of disappear like that. It's not ideal. But I am now in, so at least we can have a look at the controls. On board, once you get yourself into position and settled over the wheel arch, we have this wonderfully massive steering wheel which dominates the entire dash here. It is superb. And then the dash itself is fantastically uncluttered. I have an oil pressure gauge, a speedo which no longer functions, a vacuum gauge because it's vacuum braked machine, a clock of dubious working, a light that illuminates to let me know that it's got too hot, and a light that illuminates to let me know if the oil pressure has dropped. There's also a switch on here to control the panel lights. Next door to that, I have a modern tacho because this machine survived into modern day, so modern rules applied. So that now runs the speedo off that and take it off and work your tacho as normal, putting in the magic discs. None of that magic card stuff here. Next door to me here, I've got the horn, and under here is full beam and dip beam on the stick. My gear stick here, accelerator, brake and clutch as normal, handbrake tucked down here. The indicator is this little device that's mounted on the side here. I have a ventilator just down there, and if I'm particularly hot, I can lift this and open the front to allow more air to rush in. I have a windscreen wiper in front of me there, which is controlled off here. So I have my wiper, I have a retrofitted screen wash activated off this one, and then lights for the saloon behind me. Next door to me, I have my headlights, my fog lights and my side lights. I have the master switch to turn on all the electricities and the starty button. The turny offy button is a pull cord just tucked around here. And most importantly, next door to me here, I have the anti-thermal instant spray, just in case things go really wrong. The most annoying thing about all of this is from my nice position here, once I reach my destination and it will be time to go and change the headboard that shows where we're going, the destination board, that's over there. So I have to demount from this cab, which is, as you can imagine, an ordeal, walk round, spin the spinny thing to change the destination. So I guess I probably should do that now. So what you're meant to do is swing round, put your foot into there and do a sensible and careful dismount. Or alternatively, that was easier, wasn't it? So swinging round here. Now, apparently this was a conductor's job rather than something I have to do, but we're going to put this onto, there we go, private hire, and we're going to go, there we go, advertising. One of the things you may have noticed that wasn't in the cab was a gauge to tell you how much fuel you've got. And that's because the gauge is entirely separate. And what we do is we have this magical thing here and we place in the measuring device. This tells us that we have got fuel and we have precisely that much. What that means, I have absolutely no idea. But there is diesel. And with that, we can go back in time to when we got here first thing, do the prep, and then we can head out on the open road to the seaside. So going back in time to the first thing this morning, as you can see, it has been weatherized. This has now got a roof. And the first thing to do is to remove the roof, which seems somewhat counterintuitive when it's rainy everywhere. And they've given me a stick. And this is not just any stick, it's a stick with a bit missing, which means I can go doing, doing. There's actually very satisfying. Wee, doing. And take that one, and finally we take off this one like so. Now obviously I need to go to t'other side and release all of that, and then this becomes effectively a massive parachute, I assume. Right, with that, that's released, which means I can go upstairs and now literally raise the roof. How on earth am I meant to get through this? The owner of this told me to do it nice and neatly, and I feel that I have complied entirely with how he asked me to do this. Now that we've removed the roof, we can continue with the rest of the prep. And the first stage of this is to open up the bonnet. And this is quite nice. Undo the two caps, pull it up, and then just slide up, and it locks in place. And this reveals the Leyland 600 engine. So called because I think the whole capacity was 600 cubic inches, which translates into modern money as 9.8 litres. So it's a fair lump. And this, at peak power, develops 146 of your horses. And of course, it is a 6-cylinder diesel. So things to check in here are to reach down into the depth and withdraw an oil stick. That's pretty oily. Can I have a rag, anybody? Give that a wipe, and we'll put that back into this. From there, the next thing to check is to pop up here and see if we've got water inside it. We have. Congratulations, that's my basic checks done. So and now we're ready to start. And here we go. So I've got to try and swing this impossible corner to start off with and get the bus round down here. Now I have absolutely no power-assisted steering, because who wants that? And an indicator that doesn't self-cancel. But that's fine, because equally, who wants that? Oh, it is a workout swinging this round. There we go. Now I'm coming to a stop again, so I'm not going to bother changing gear because it's crashed between first and second. Then I do have synchro between second and third and fourth. But for what I'm doing now, I don't want to try shifting down. So we got it moving, so immediately let the revs dry, drop all the way down, then I can find second. And with second, cancel my indicator. And now I can ask it for third. And as soon as you get into third, it's actually really nice. The box between there, super. And into fourth. Box again, really nice. It's just that the first to second is unpleasant. And this little town that I'm driving through is delightful. I don't know where I am, where we've decided that I'd start my drive, but it's absolutely beautiful. And it feels like I've gone back in time and this bus really belongs there. Right, down to third. Catch it on the revs. And now we'll make our way up here. The big problem with any vehicle of this size is familiarising yourself with how big it is and where it sits on the road. And obviously this is not my bus, so it's taken a little bit just to work out where I should be with it. But now I'm getting there and I'm feeling a bit more confident. I am absolutely loving this. It's just such a sensation, and you have such a presence driving it up the road. It really does command everything. People stop, they see it, and they're like, oh, look at that, because it's that unusual. It is, however, not fast, nor is it particularly grunty. I'm in fourth gear, doing 30 miles an hour uphill, doing 25 miles an hour uphill, doing 26 miles an hour uphill, foot to the floor. That's all I've got. If I drop it down into third, well, I get a bit more power, but it's only marginal, and the speed, I lose so much of my speed. And this is basically it. I've accelerated up to 40. It's quite loud, and this is all I've got. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it is exceedingly loud, because I am sat on top of the engine. The engine is just there, that flap there. Although the noise itself seems to emanate more from underneath than there, but that's fine. It very much tells me the engine is working. I've got no tacho for my revs, so only the tacho for my time and speed, so I'm having to guess at what revs the engine is. What's too much, what's not enough, and when I'm shifting down, I just have to get a feel for it. It is a beautiful noise though, particularly when you ask it and you put your foot down, you get, as we do 38 miles an hour. You can hear when I let off, that whine, that's the vacuum. Because again, these are vacuum operated brakes. So I've got my vacuum gauge in the corner there. Obviously it's a fail safe. If I lose vacuum, the brakes come on and that's us done. about this to bear in mind is that I am in a cab on my own. Over there, that is the side, the bonnet, and then open space. But it takes a minute for you to get that into your head to work out how this all works. Because you can kind of feel, oh, that's the side of my vehicle, that's where I should be. And you've got to remember that, no, it is right over there. The ride of this is also quite pleasant. It's far better than I was expecting, considering we're just on leaf springs in an old bus. But in the cab at least, I think it's very good. So I decided to put my cameraman Charles upstairs and see how he was dealing with it. Looks like he's having fun. It is also, without any shadow of a doubt, one of the coldest cabs I have ever been in. Come on, foot to the floor, let's go. There's no heater in here, nothing at all. All I have is the ability to shut the window somewhat and control some of the draft, although it doesn't seal perfectly along the front there. So there's always cold air coming in. And I was expecting there to be some warmth of the engine, and there's just not. It is just cold. It's one of those things I never thought how much I would really appreciate it is a heater. The way that it drives though is superb. The steering wheel, when you're trying to manoeuvre it in towns like when we started, is so heavy. But the feeling from it when you're going along is great. You're very confident about where you are planting this machine. It very much, you go, yeah, we're going over there, and you can feel it, and you can feel every bit of the road through it. Now there is a bit of play in it, so you are constantly having to adjust where you are, but that's just the nature of the beast. We absolutely, full power downhill, I've touched 50, and it was a touch. It's not fast. Equally with the gearbox on it, it doesn't really feel like it's a town bus. It's not something I want to drive around town and constantly have to deal with changing gear all the time. Oh my, that's a long uphill. Let's take a run up. miles an hour. Foot is flat to the floor. I'm giving it absolutely everything, and there's not many vehicles that join the exclusive club of I've driven it absolutely flat out on the road, but we are flat out, and here we go up the hill. Foot hard down into the 40 limit, doing 40, still falling, doing 30. There we go, that was an adventure. Oh no, the hill the other side. Oh, here we go, get up to 40 again. Come on bus, come on bus. It's just so gutless. And there's like nobody on board. I've got 4 people, I've got the owner, his wife, and 2 other people involved, and my cameraman. That's it. It's just so slow. Oh, it's brilliant. Honestly, I don't think I've had as much fun driving something big in a while. It's just such a rewarding experience. Whilst the ride of this is actually surprisingly good and surprisingly comfortable, the rest of it, well, the seat is as far back as it goes, and I'm still sat over the top of the pedals. The seat itself is bolt upright with no adjustment, and already I'm starting to feel my back ache. The visibility is actually surprisingly good. Out the front, obviously, it's fine. I'm quite far back from the window, but it's not bad. I've got good visibility over there because there's nothing there apart from a wheel arch. And my mirrors, well, my mirrors, I have seen bigger ladies' compact mirrors. However, they are perfectly placed and give me really good visibility. I can see along the vehicle quite happily. They don't vibrate too much, they're just brilliant. These mirrors are set up perfectly, and they are a real lifesaver to be able to drive this thing safely. Without them, I'd be completely lost. I would like a bigger mirror, but I was pleasantly surprised at just how effective they are. And that low grumble of this engine is just absolute delight. Obviously, I can just glance behind me. I have a mirror over there that shows me my passengers, so I know what they're getting up to. And there is a window behind me for the conductor to come and speak to me about what we should be doing, where we should be going, unruly passengers, if they're struggling, all sorts. The layout of the controls is less than ergonomic. In order to get the windscreen wiper, I need to flick one of these along here. Not that one. Oh, it is that one. It's not where I want them to be, and with the best will in the world, learning where they are to remember what one you need to flick. Not ideal. Equally, lights along there somewhere. It's like that's sides, that's maybe headlights, yeah, that's where headlights on. It's just not well placed. Equally, I've got no marker on my dash at all to let me know I put my lights on. He comes from that age where it was just, oh, we can just slap those there, it doesn't matter. The other nice thing about this is driving along, you see another bus, you smile and you get a wave, and that's brilliant. So now we're actually in Scarborough. I have to think a bit more as we make our way through, making sure that we're keeping out of the way of traffic. I don't want to stop. Oh, okay, we'll stop then. I feel very touristy, being in what's obviously a touristy bus in a touristy town. Definitely tourist. And what's most ironic is that I am indeed a tourist in a touristy town driving a touristy bus. And that amuses me. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, driving a bus in town is a completely different experience to driving a bus out on the open road where it's nice and windy and fun. This is immediately a lot more hard work. And the desire to change gear is a lot stronger. I'm just trying to resist it for as long as possible. It's a workout driving this in a town, I tell you that. Oh wow, look at this though. And we're going to be in a bus overtaking a bus. That's definitely meta. Oh wow, what a view! What a view! What a view! This is the best place I've ever driven a bus. I've driven a bus to the seaside. I'm a holiday man, maker, driver person. I legitimately do not know where I'm meant to go now. Hold both lanes and down we go. I've made mistakes. I didn't make mistakes. I made that work. We're going right. Oh, come on. Come on. Round we go. Look at the sea in front. Being a passenger is notably not as much fun as being the driver. Certainly, in fact, it may even ride worse back here than it does as a driver. Maybe it's just I can see what's coming, I can feel it a bit more. It's certainly not uncomfortable, but it's more springy. I'm more aware of the bumps, the way the machine bucks and kicks. Whereas as a driver, I'm just probably just going hellfire and going, yes, it's amazing. Whereas this is just nice, but it takes you back to the way we used to travel. Going along the seafront here at Scarborough, I'm like, almost believing I've gone back in time because it is such a timeless vehicle. And my absolute favourite thing about it is the fact that I can see dead ahead through the front window. So even down here, I can see where we're going. In fact, it's somewhat unnerving because this isn't a view that you normally get on a bus. It's just really quite pleasant. There is ample legroom. My shins are caging a little bit close. So if it's lots of people together, maybe. But certainly better than today's buses. I think it's absolutely stunning that machines like this still exist. And it's nice being down here in the relative warm, at least I'm out of the wind, and just enjoying being on a bus. I wonder if Charles is still okay. The sound that this makes back here, it's more developed, it's more pronounced. I can appreciate the engine more here than you do in the cab. In the cab it's just a noise, whereas this you hear that rumble, and it's a lot more almost throaty back here. I guess it's because we're hearing more of the exhaust rather than just the sheer rumble of the engine. This is great, I like being along here. I certainly do appreciate the difference between a bus on airbags and a bus that's not. This isn't bad by any means. It's just, I'm very aware that we're on springs. And it's the kind of thing that actually, as a bus goes, yeah, you'd be quite content to do a journey on this. Certainly it's a lot more quiet than it is in the cab, at which point you're very aware that you're on top of an engine, whereas this is just quite pleasant. It's got nice vintage undertones, the styling, the shape, the smells, the noise. But by no means is this a compromise. This is a totally acceptable way to travel. This is a bus that I would be more than happy to, if I did the bus thing, ride on a daily basis. In fact, I'd rather be on this going to wherever I needed to go than I would be a modern one. Because you can't really fault it. No, I can fault it. I can fault it very much because there's no heater, and that is a massive issue. I like these windy windows, they're brilliant. I like the fact that I can't touch a stop button because there's not one without me having to get up. That's a slight issue as well, I've now realised, because I'd have to stand forward or stand back. But actually, it's fine. It's more than capable of being a bus that's in use today. It's better than most. In fact, this is far more comfortable a seat than half a dozen of the buses I tried at Eurobuscon, where they were just unpleasant and stiff, whereas this is a comfortable seat. It doesn't feel as old as it is. Sure that it's dated in its design and decor, but in terms of actually how far the bus has come, it's not moved on that far at all. So, come for an adventure on the top deck. The weather has got better. It's alright. It's quite bouncy up here, but you don't appreciate it on my cars. We have the right equipment and the right safety gear for this. This means our ears are indeed warm, very important. Eyes are protected. Actually, it's not too bad. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. This is fine. This is fine. If we do stand up at all, it gets, yes, very windy indeed. But this is absolutely fine. Of course, this is the way to sample a double decker, is on the top. This is the correct way to do it. And oh, look at that view. Laugh all you want. The view over there, at the end of the day as the sun's going down, is absolutely outstanding and amazing. And with that, as we make our way back, with the wind blowing, charging down these lovely little roads in the middle of North Yorkshire, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure. A massive thank you to Nathan and the other guys involved in this thing for inviting us along and letting us have a drive on it. I have loved it. For a machine that, since the tacker was fitted, has done over 170,000 kilometres, it handles like it's new. It is quite rough up here, I don't know if I'm mentioned. It's a remarkable machine. Now, there'll be a link in the website if you want to book it, and the routes that it's doing over the song when it's doing its runs to Scarborough, so do check them out if you have enjoyed this. Now I'm clicking somewhere on the screen now for some of the other videos that I've done on the buses. And with that, I'm a bus fest. And with that, thanks for watching guys, like, subscribe, and check out the Patreon. And with that, we're going to enjoy the roller coaster on the way home. Try. Oh my god, look at that!